All right, now that we have glued up our leg assemblies, done a handful of dry fits, all of our pieces are sanded up to 220 grit, we're finally ready to do our final assembly. So right in front of me I have our serving tray with a bunch of clamps on it. This is the last dry fit. So the leg assemblies are currently installed, which you can't see. And then I have a handful of clamps. And the reason I have so many on it is because I want all of the pressure for both directions on the joints. So on the rabbets, I want pressure coming in from each side as well as each end. So I've configured clamps so that we can make that happen. So it's really important to make sure you have everything you need before you start a glue up, because once you start applying glue, you really want to have everything with clamps on and all the glue wiped away within about 5 minutes. So you kind of need to work relatively fast. So you want to have everything you need on at hand. So I have my clamps installed, putting pressure on, like I said, in all directions. I've got my Titebond 3, which is waterproof glue. You can probably just use regular white glue, but I have this, so I'm going to use it. I have a little piece of wood that I'm going to use to scrape away any glue. Also maybe to apply the glue where I'd like it. So I'm going to put a little bit of glue in the crack where the plywood meets the inside of the groove. Just a tiny bit just to hold it in place. So I have this on hand, and as well to spread any glue I need out. Or sorry, spread around any glue. I also have a damp paper towel as well as a dry paper towel to wipe away any glue squeeze out, because it's going to be easier to do it while the glue is still wet rather than once it's hardened. You have to try to chip it away or sand it away. It's possible, but I find it easier to do it this way. I've also got a tri-square at hand for afterwards, once I get the clamps on, to make sure that everything is sitting square. And also, once I do apply the glue, it's nice to do this on a nice flat surface so that you can push down in the corners and make sure that everything's sitting flat on the table, and then you're going to have the best glue up possible. This glue up is a little bit tricky in that we have to get the tray, the plywood tray, in the groove in the end and side pieces. At the same time, we have to get the leg assemblies, the dowels on either side, in the holes of the side pieces. So it's a bit of a juggle. So maybe practice it a few times with the dry fit before. I've already done this a handful of times, so I feel pretty confident. But like I said before, once you start putting glue on, you want to move quickly and make sure you get everything clamped up relatively quick. And one quick reminder, make sure you do not put any glue in the holes where the dowels will be inserted. Otherwise, if you do, the leg assemblies will not open by the means that they should. They would count on pivoting on the inside of the hole that we drilled, which is going to be really hard on it, and they're pretty fragile that way. So rather, you want it to pivot on that dowel. That's going to be much stronger. So make sure you do not put any glue in that hole. Other than that, look at your piece before you take it apart. See which areas you need to add glue, so in which sides of the rabbets and the ends of the side pieces. As well, like I said before, a tiny bit, and when I say tiny, just a really small amount on the inside of the tray, because if you have a lot, the squeeze out there is going to be a pain to get off and remove. So make sure you know what you're doing beforehand. I have done this dry fit a handful of times, so I'm pretty comfortable assembling it. It's a bit of a juggling act, so it might be helpful to get a second pair of hands in there so that you can hold everything where you need it, or apply glue while you're holding it. I've done it a couple of times, so I'm pretty confident I can make it happen, and I'll try to talk you through it as I'm going, although I will be gluing things up and things move fast, so hopefully I can point out anything that stands out to me as I do the glue up. All right, I'm going to remove the clamps and remember the order that they go on. And there you can see the leg assemblies in the bottom that make this glue up a little bit tricky, to be honest, but I think we can do it. I'm just gonna organize all the parts in the same order that they go back together. So they'll just go back together like so. The leg assemblies, I'll move off to the side. And I think the first things I'm going to do is I'm going to put a little bit of glue inside the groove on all 4 pieces. And I'll probably try to use this scraper just to spread that around a little bit so I don't have any squeeze out. After that, I'm going to apply glue on the edges of the piece, probably on the insides of the rabbits, as they're gonna go together like so. So I'll make sure I put some on the face here, as well as the face here. And then I will start assembling. Here we go. All right, I've got glue in all of the grooves. Now I'm just applying it a little bit to the kind of tongue of the rabbit. And then I'm going to use this scraper to spread that around. We need a little bit more. Okay, I got the glue pretty spread out there. I'm going to start assembling with the tray first. Now the side pieces. Now I'm going to put the legs in. It's easy to do it one dowel at a time. Okay, that's going pretty well. I'm going to flip this over. Be very careful. Keep things tight. And again, I'm going to push everything down so that it's flush on the table. I already see a little bit of glue squeeze out, which is a good sign. It means I've got glue everywhere I need it. And the first clamps went on like so. Put that one on lightly, and I'll do the same over here. And then you're gonna kind of bring all the clamps in to tension at the same time. You don't want too much tension before these ones go on. Okay, I've got a little bit of tension on all of them now. I'm gonna, again, make sure that everything's sitting flush on the table. Then I'm gonna bring in all the clamps at the same time. So a little bit of tension on these, a little bit more tension over here. Looking good so far. I see a tiny bit of squeeze out. Got a decent amount of stress on these now. I think they're pretty tight. I'm gonna go and check with the tri-square to double check that my joints are square. If they weren't at this point, you could put a clamp on diagonally to bring it into square. Looking pretty good. I'm going to try, I'll wipe off a little bit of glue that I can see right now, and then I'm going to try to flip it over and see if everything's looking good on the other side. So it's especially important on the inside of these corners that we remove any glue we can, because that's going to be a pain later. I don't see any glue squeeze out from the tray, so that's a good sign. And it looks like my end piece is a little bit lower than my side piece, so I'm gonna try to see if I can push that down if I need to. Otherwise, I'll just leave it, make sure that it's nice and flush on the table, but everything's looking good so far. There we go. Check it one more time. Now that's fitting much more flush here. And I'm just gonna double check that the leg assemblies have their proper rotation and proper movement. They're looking nice and snug, which is perfect. I think we have a pretty successful glue up. I mean, the true test will be in 30 minutes or overnight when you end up taking the clamps off. But as far as I can tell, it looks good. I got glue everywhere I want it. So now just wait the amount of time, about 30 minutes, and you should be ready to go.